There are 8 or 9 Jordan 1s dropping next week, and they might be dropping where you are for the week of ones. If you know anything about the week of ones drop and which sneakers are dropping and where, let me know in the comments down below, because this is going to be an unbelievable opportunity to get your hands on Air Jordan 1s. This is the Tokyo Bara 23 sneaker channel. Tokyo Bara 23 no sneaker channel des. I bring you daily content every single day. Mainichi absuru no de. And I try to mix the languages a little bit, not very much. It's mostly in English with a splattering of Japanese throughout, to try and get that connection between the two cultures where I live here in Japan and those overseas sneakerheads that I'm in touch with every single day. Today we're bringing you an absolutely incredible list of sneakers. This is going to be an unbelievable opportunity to get your hands on Air Jordan 1s that are dropping throughout next week. So make sure you hit me up with a comment down below and hit the subscribe button as we track through these Air Jordan 1 releases coming February the 18th to February 22nd. As I said in the introduction, you've got a week of Jordan 1s dropping, and we don't know if they're dropping just here in Japan or if they're dropping worldwide, but they're definitely dropping here in Japan for sure. And speaking of Japan, this channel is designed and built around the Olympics in 2020, which are coming next year, and the goal of this channel is to get big and to ride that Olympic wave. So if you don't mind, if you could do me that favor and hit that subscribe button below and get this channel growing in time for those Tokyo 2020 Olympics that are coming next year. So back to these Jordan 1s that are dropping now. They're dropping February 18th to February the 22nd here in Japan for sure. And like I said, I don't know if they're dropping worldwide or not. Let me know in the comments down below if you know where they are dropping, if you know it's just Japan, or if you know where they're dropping worldwide. Now, we've had these week of ones before. In Europe in November, they had a week of ones to celebrate the sneakers app going live there in Europe. That was back in November in 2018. But the sneakers app has been up and running and live here in Japan for a while now, so it's definitely not to support the sneakers app or to help roll that out. It's hard to know Nike's reasons behind this week of ones and why they're bringing them out right now and what their intention is, but that doesn't really matter. What matters is there are no less than 8 Jordan 1s about to hit the market next week. Are they hitting the market where you are? I don't know. They're definitely hitting the market where I am, and I'm going to take you through all 8 today. So let's get started with the first one, which is the Track Red. Now, the first 6 of these that I'm going to show you are very, very similar in silhouettes and in colorways, and they have just a few small changes between them. And if we look at these Track Reds, you can see that on that tongue up there, on the tab on the tongue, you've got that flash of red. And if you come down the ankle to the ankle support again, there you have that flash of red too. The swoosh also red, and then down to the outsole is red. Now that pattern of tongue, ankle support, swoosh and outsole is repeated for some of the other colorways that are dropping. And what's also repeated is that toe box is a significant place where you see color or don't. And in the case of these reds, it's not there on the toe box. Moving on to the next colorway, it's the yellow ochre that we moved on to, and it's exactly the same in design as the reds before it, where you've got the flash of color up there on the tongue in that tab section there, and then coming down to the ankle support, again that yellow color through the swoosh. Again, you can see it here. You've got the yellow, and onto the outsole, again full court yellow across the outsole, and that toe box is not colored to go with this colorway. And that's the similarity between these first 2 that you've got there, the Track Reds and the ochre yellows. Moving on to the third of the 8 that are dropping next week, we've got to the Court Purple. And this Court Purple and the next one that I'll show you have a similar design in that you do have that flash of color on the tongue tag there, and then also coming down to the ankle support, and on the way down, all the way down to the outsole, you can see those flashes of color. But where you don't see the flash of color is on the swoosh on the side. That flash of color has been moved around to the toe box. So whereas on the first 2, the reds and the yellows, the toe box is plain, but the swoosh is colored, here you can see on these Court Purples that it's the toe box that carries the color and the swoosh that doesn't. And that motif carries on into the 4th of the drops that are coming next week in the Pine Green, where again, flash of color on the tongue. The ankle support's got the color there, the outsole, and the toe box is where you can see the color, and the swoosh itself is not. So whereas the first 2, the red reds and the yellows were very similar. The second two, the purple and these greens, are also very similar. It's almost like they're two pairs going side by side with each other, which is interesting because then when we get onto the fifth one, we get into a whole different dimension altogether. And that fifth one is the shadow here. And it's hard to tell where the colorway exists on this sneaker because it's pretty much just a black and grey sneaker. Looking at the tongue tag, you can see that's one color which is mimicked throughout the ankle, down the swoosh and into the outsole, but it's also in the toe box. So you've got a uniform color all the way through those 5 points on the sneaker, which you didn't have on the first 4 that are dropping. So it's hard to tell where those colorways come from, whether or not it's a black colorway or a grey colorway for this one, because there isn't that significant look at the color on this sneaker and in the upper to tell us that this is a particular color, because it is a shadow and it's grey and black and that's all it is on it. But I do actually think this is one of the better of the 8s that are coming out next week. And that brings us on to the final of the 6 sort of regulation colorways, the Rookie of the Year. As you can see here up here on the screen, you've got the Rookie of the Year here, and it's different a little bit from the first 5 in that the colors on it do pop out as they do on the other ones, and you do have it there on the tongue and the ankle support, but you don't have it on the swoosh, you don't have the color on the outsole, and you don't have it on the toe box. Where you have it is in the overlays and around the lacing system. So it's a little bit of a departure from the first 5 that have dropped, but of course it is an absolutely banging colorway and definitely one of the better sneakers to drop next week for this week of ones that's coming from the Jordan brand. But that leads us into a sort of unusual section. The first few sneakers that are dropping, you can see they're very similar in their design and their silhouette, and there are just a few changes in the colorway that is kind of matched and equal throughout them. But then we get into some more sort of unusual colorways and little differences in the sneakers that are kind of different from each one and not the same as the earlier ones that I was showing you. And the very first one of those is the A Star Is Born. Now this was a Sports Illustrated inspired one that dropped a few weeks ago, and I did a review, so I'll stick a link up there so you can see my review to this A Star Is Born or Sports Illustrated colorway. And the big thing about it and the big color point on it was that swoosh being stitched on, and that gradient color throughout the swoosh was a unique selling point. But what was sort of slightly unfortunate with this sneaker was that when people got it in hand, what they tended to actually do was to cut away that stitching around the swoosh, and they ended up with just a plain swoosh. So it's kind of odd that people would buy the sneaker for its one main selling point and then take it off as soon as they got it home. But that's what people did. It's dropping again next week, and if you're interested in that sneaker, make sure you grab yourself a pair. And we've saved the most unique of the colorways for the last. To be honest, it's not something that I'm a fan of with the Jordan brand, and it's what they're calling the homage to home. It may have dropped before, but I'm not all that interested in this kind of sneaker, so I don't really pay attention. I think it's a bit gimmicky when they have the mismatched sneakers like this. I did like the SB Dunk Lows that Atmos did a couple of years ago in 2017, where they had almost exact opposites. In fact, they did have exact opposites of the sneaker, which I did like. But when you look at these guys here, you can see the left and the right are very, very different. They have black, red and white throughout, but they're not sort of an opposite silhouette of each other. And I'm not a huge fan of that. So to be honest, of all the sneakers dropping next week for Jordan 1 week, for the week of ones, this is the one I'm least inclined to be interested in. And that carries us on to the first of the 2 women's sneakers that are dropping next week. And I'm not going to rant about women's sneakers as I usually do. I'll just sort of tip my hat to it and let anyone out there who knows my issue with that just sit, and we'll get into look at these guys, because you've got this sort of top 3, it's being called colorway. I've popped it up here, the top 3 colorway, and again it's that similar mismatched sort of design, except the colorway is a little bit different because they've added blue into these ones, whereas on those homage to home ones it was just red, white and black. You've got a bit of blue in here with this top 3, and again, not a huge fan of these sort of mixing up the sneaker colors when it's not a perfect match from the one side to the other. I think it's a little bit gimmicky. However, there's another women's sneaker dropping which is called the XX Rebels Chicago's, and as you can see, it's a very clean colorway. It's that traditional sort of OG Chicago colorway and a very nice looking sneaker. I'm not a huge fan of these XX Rebels, to be honest, especially I don't like on the medial side where they've got that zipper going up the ankle support. It's not, to me, I don't know, it's definitely not for performance, let's put it that way. But there you have it. There's 2 women's only XX Rebels that are dropping next week as part of this week of ones Air Jordan 1 week. That's my review of this week of ones, the Air Jordan 1s that are dropping next week from February the 18th to February the 22nd here in Japan for sure, possibly overseas and worldwide. Let me know where you are if you're going to get your hands on these week of ones. I'm definitely going to be checking out a few of them next week when they drop here. Let me know if they're going to be dropping where you are in the comments down below. For now, this is Tokyo Butter 23 saying thanks for checking in. Let's try and boost this channel up before the Olympics kick in and ride that Olympics wave and get the channel going, hit that subscribe button. I will see you tomorrow for sure, because I drop content every single day. And this is Tokyo Butter 23 signing off from Tokyo, saying thanks for checking in, and I will see you for sure tomorrow. Thank you for checking in today, guys. I really appreciate your being here and viewing my content. Over here we have the channel subscribe button. Channel登録ぜひお願いします. Over here we have the video I recommend you watch next. こちらはおすすめです. And up here we have a link to the channel introduction video. こちらはチャンネルのプロフィールのvideoです. Check them out. Clicking on them really helps the channel.